Sometimes we look at our lives and wonder why change feels so far away, why peace seems distant, and why our hearts remain restless even while we are surrounded by blessings. The truth is, transformation rarely arrives in a single grand moment. It is born in the quiet spaces we often overlook. It grows in the hidden corners of our everyday routines. Consistent actions that shape who we become. Every sunrise presents a choice to live on autopilot or to live with intention. The tiny habits you practice today may look insignificant, but they are seeds. A single moment of gratitude waters. A sincere prayer softens what life has hardened. 5 minutes of reflection can realign an entire day. A gentle word to someone can rewrite their hope. Transformation happens not in the noise of big accomplishments, but in the quiet discipline of showing up, again and again. The way you speak to your own soul, the way you treat people, the way you show kindness when no one sees. This is the architecture of your future. When you honor the small, the unseen, the consistent, you honor the one who watches every effort. And when he sees your sincerity, he elevates the smallest habit into the greatest change. Remember, your life will not shift by what you occasionally do, but by what you choose to do every single day with purpose. Consistent small habits create the deepest and most lasting transformation because real change is not an overnight miracle. It is a slow, steady unfolding of who you are becoming. We often imagine transformation as something dramatic, a moment that shakes our entire world, something big enough for everyone to notice. But the reality is far quieter. Life changes in the subtle choices you make when no one is watching, in the small promises you keep to yourself, and in the daily disciplines that seem too simple to matter. The small habit of waking up a little earlier to center your heart, the small habit of speaking kindly to yourself, the small habit of pausing before reacting in anger, these are not insignificant. They are the building blocks of a transformed life. Every small habit carries a ripple, and the ripples of today become the waves of tomorrow. Transformation doesn't happen because you did something once. It happens because you did something repeatedly, consistent, even on the days you didn't feel like it. Those small choices, those tiny shifts, slowly carve new pathways in your mind and new rhythms in your soul. You begin to think differently, respond differently, and see life through a new lens. A small daily habit might take only a few minutes, but with time, it rewires patterns that have been holding you back for years. And because it is small, it is sustainable. Big changes often collapse under the weight of unrealistic expectations, but small habits are gentle. They are patient. They ask only for sincerity, not perfection. The power of small habits lies in their accumulation. One moment of gratitude doesn't change your heart, but practicing gratitude every day transforms how you experience the world. One act of generosity doesn't redefine your character, but choosing compassion daily turns you into someone who carries light wherever you go. One day of discipline doesn't make you strong, but repeated discipline builds resilience, clarity, and inner stability. Transformation grows quietly, like a seed under the soil, unseen at first, but always progressing. And perhaps the most beautiful part is that small habits force you to be present. They remind you that growth is not out there somewhere in the future. It is happening right now, in this moment, in this choice. Consistency also teaches humility. When you commit to small habits, you admit that you are a work in progress, that you are willing to take small steps even when you wish you could take giant leaps. You learn patience with your journey and mercy with yourself. You realize that you don't need to fix everything at once. You only need to take one faithful step at a time. And those steps, repeated over days, months, and years, take you further than any moment of sudden effort ever could. Consistency is not glamorous. It will not attract applause, but it builds a kind of strength that cannot be shaken and a maturity that cannot be faked. Small habits also shift your identity. When you repeatedly do something, you begin to see yourself as the kind of person who does that thing. When you read a few pages a day, you become a reader. When you choose calm over reaction, you become someone who is emotionally grounded. When you pray regularly, even briefly, you become someone who turns to God before turning to the world. Identity follows action. And when your identity shifts, even slightly, your entire life begins to reflect that inner change. What makes small habits so transformative is that they operate in alignment with how the heart and mind naturally grow. Sudden efforts can shock your system, but gentle, daily habits nurture you into becoming more authentic, more conscious, more connected to your purpose. They empower you to reclaim control over your life, not through force, but through quiet commitment. And because they are small, they remind you that change is not impossible or distant. It is accessible right now within your reach. Every small habit is a seed of possibility. And when planted with consistency, watered with intention, and protected with patience, those seeds unlock a transformation that lasts quietly, deeply, and beautifully. Daily gratitude softens the heart and shifts your perspective because it invites us to notice the blessings that already exist in our lives, even when the world feels heavy or chaotic. When we practice gratitude, we are choosing to pause, to breathe, and to acknowledge what is good rather than what is lacking. It is so easy to get caught up in what hasn't happened, what went wrong, or what we wish were different, and in that space, our hearts become tense, our minds restless, and our souls weary. Gratitude, however, quietly redirects our attention. It trains us to see the small miracles in the mundane, to recognize the ordinary moments that carry extraordinary meaning. A warm cup of tea, the laughter of a loved one, the steady rhythm of your own heartbeat. These simple realities, when noticed, begin to transform the way we relate to life. The act of gratitude softens the heart because it requires vulnerability. To be truly grateful, we must admit that we are not in control of everything, that there are gifts in life beyond our doing. This acknowledgement fosters humility, patience, and empathy. When we recognize that we are dependent on countless unseen acts of kindness, moments of mercy, and blessings that appear unexpectedly, our hearts naturally expand. Hardness melts, judgment eases, and a sense of connection grows, not only to the people around us, but also to the one who orchestrates our lives with wisdom and care. Gratitude reminds us that life is not solely about what we achieve, control, or acquire. It is also about what we notice, receive, and cherish. Gratitude shifts perspective because it rewires our mind to focus on abundance rather than scarcity. When we dwell on what is missing, our vision narrows and dissatisfaction dominates. But when we intentionally count our blessings, we create a mental environment in which hope, joy, and contentment can flourish. This shift does not ignore hardship or pain. It simply allows light to enter the spaces where despair might otherwise settle. It is like turning on a lamp in a dark room. You still see the corners, but suddenly you also see possibility. Daily gratitude does the same for the soul. It transforms ordinary routines into moments of awareness, turning a simple walk into an opportunity to marvel at the beauty of creation, turning a challenging day into a canvas of lessons and growth. Moreover, daily gratitude shapes our relationships and how we interact with the world. When our hearts are softened by appreciation, we are less likely to react in anger, jealousy, or bitterness. We begin to notice the efforts of others, to honor their presence, and to respond with kindness rather than criticism. Gratitude opens our eyes to the contributions, sacrifices, and love that surround us constantly, often unnoticed. It helps us cultivate patience and forgiveness because we recognize that everyone is navigating their own struggles, and every gesture of love, however small, matters. In this way, gratitude is not only an inward practice, but also an outward force, transforming the way we move through our communities and connect with others. The power of daily gratitude is cumulative. One expression of thanks might feel small, almost negligible, but when repeated consistently, it becomes a lens through which life is perceived. Over time, it trains us to find beauty even in ordinary or difficult moments. It allows us to approach setbacks with resilience, viewing them as lessons rather than punishments. It encourages contentment without complacency, teaching us to value what we have while still striving for growth. Each day we give thanks, we are consciously choosing to nurture a heart that is open, receptive, and aligned with the flow of life rather than resistant to it. In essence, gratitude softens the heart by replacing rigidity with openness and transforms perspective by shifting focus from what is absent to what is present. It reminds us that life, even with its trials, is filled with countless opportunities for appreciation. Daily practice of gratitude is not about ignoring pain or pretending everything is perfect. It is about choosing to see what is real, to notice the gifts woven into the fabric of each day, and to allow those moments to cultivate peace, joy, and clarity. When the heart is softened and the mind's lens is shifted, life no longer feels like a series of burdens, but becomes a journey rich with meaning, connection, and grace. Intentional routines protect your inner peace and energy because they create a framework for your life that aligns with your values, priorities, and well-being. In a world that constantly pulls us in every direction, our energy can become fragmented, our minds overwhelmed, and our hearts restless. Without structure, we drift through our days reacting to external demands, often sacrificing what nourishes us in the process. Intentional routines, however, are deliberate choices. They are not just habits formed by chance, but conscious actions designed to cultivate stability, clarity, and resilience. They act like protective boundaries around your mind and soul, giving you space to breathe, reflect, and grow. When you design your day with purpose, you are telling yourself and the universe that your peace and energy matter. The first way intentional routines protect us is by reducing mental clutter. Life becomes overwhelming when decisions, tasks, and responsibilities pile up without a clear system to manage them. When you have routines, many decisions are automated, freeing your mind to focus on creativity, problem solving, and presence. Having a morning routine that includes reflection, planning, or prayer allows you to start the day with calm intentionality rather than rushing into obligations with scattered thoughts. Similarly, an evening routine that prioritizes rest, gratitude, and reflection prepares the mind and body to recharge effectively. By creating a rhythm to your life, routines reduce the cognitive load that comes from constant decision making and uncertainty, preserving your mental and emotional energy. Intentional routines also protect your inner peace because they establish a sense of control and stability in the midst of chaos. Life is unpredictable and challenges will inevitably arise, but routines provide a reliable foundation. Knowing that certain aspects of your day are reserved for nourishment, focus, and self-care creates a sense of security and balance. Even when external circumstances are stressful, the consistency of your personal rituals reminds you that not everything is at the mercy of chaos. This sense of control is deeply calming. It anchors you in your own values and priorities rather than letting the world dictate your state of being. Another critical aspect is that intentional routines safeguard your energy by ensuring that it is spent on what truly matters. Energy is finite, and when we react impulsively to every demand, distraction, or emotional trigger, it depletes rapidly. Intentional routines guide you to allocate your energy to high-value activities, whether that's spiritual practices, meaningful work, or nurturing relationships, rather than to things that drain you without benefit. This selective approach allows you to maintain focus, productivity, and emotional stability while minimizing unnecessary stress. By honoring your energy through intentional planning, you create a life where you are not constantly running on empty, but moving through each day with vitality and purpose. Routines also create consistency that strengthens resilience. When you intentionally structure your life, you are less susceptible to the emotional swings and pressures that come with unpredictability. Repetition builds discipline, patience, and self-trust. You begin to rely on yourself rather than external circumstances to regulate your mood and energy. This is empowering because it places the responsibility for your well-being firmly in your hands rather than leaving it to chance. Over time, intentional routines cultivate a sense of mastery over your inner world, allowing you to respond to life's challenges with calm and composure. Moreover, intentional routines encourage mindfulness and presence. When you carve out time for reflection, prayer, exercise, or even simple breathing, you signal to your mind and body that they are valued. You create moments to pause, to reconnect with your purpose, and to align your actions with your intentions. These moments of awareness act as protective buffers against anxiety, distraction, and emotional overwhelm. They remind you that your life is not just a series of tasks to be completed, but a sacred space to be experienced fully. Ultimately, intentional routines are a form of self-respect. They communicate that your peace, your energy, and your spiritual, emotional, and physical well-being are priorities. By committing to routines that honor these aspects of yourself, you cultivate a life where stress, distraction, and chaos have less influence, and clarity, calm, and vitality have more. Intentional routines do not make life perfect or eliminate challenges, but they equip you with the structure and consistency necessary to navigate life with strength and serenity. They transform ordinary days into a rhythm of care, focus, and purpose, preserving the most precious resources you have, your inner peace and your energy. Spiritual practices, even brief ones, anchor the soul because they create a consistent point of connection to something greater than ourselves in the midst of life's chaos and uncertainty. In our modern world, filled with constant stimulation, endless tasks, and overwhelming responsibilities, it is all too easy for the soul to feel scattered, restless, or adrift. Even a few minutes spent in prayer, reflection, reading sacred texts, or mindful breathing can act like an anchor, rooting us in the present moment and reconnecting us with our deeper port. These small moments of devotion serve as touch points, gentle reminders that life is not just about the external business or the pursuit of achievements, but also about nourishing the inner world, cultivating peace, and aligning with values that endure beyond fleeting circumstances. Even brief spiritual practices cultivate mindfulness and presence. When we pause to pray, meditate, or engage in reflection, we intentionally shift our attention away from distractions and anxieties. In those moments, the constant chatter of the mind begins to quiet, and we are able to reconnect with our inner selves. The soul, which often becomes restless when left untended, finds stillness and clarity. Over time, these small moments create a habit of returning to the center, of grounding ourselves in the present, and of cultivating awareness of what truly matters. By consistently practicing even for a few minutes each day, we train ourselves to respond to life with greater calmness, patience, and intentionality rather than being driven solely by impulse or stress. Brief spiritual practices also provide emotional resilience. Life presents challenges, disappointments, and uncertainties that can shake our confidence and disturb our peace. In these moments, the soul can feel unmoored, as if tossed by waves of fear, frustration, or sadness. Yet the anchor of even a short daily practice reminds us of stability and continuity. A simple act, reciting a short prayer, reflecting on something we are grateful for, or taking a few deep breaths in mindful awareness, creates a pause, a space where we can regain perspective. These moments act like a refuge, providing emotional support and a sense of inner steadiness. The cumulative effect of brief, consistent spiritual practices is remarkable. They gradually build a deep reservoir of inner calm and strength that sustains us during turbulent times. Another aspect of brief spiritual practices is their accessibility. Many people feel that spirituality requires long hours, perfect rituals, or extraordinary devotion. This belief can be discouraging and lead to procrastination or avoidance. Yet even small, intentional practices, just a few minutes of prayer, a short reflection on sacred words, or a mindful pause in the middle of a hectic day, can profoundly impact the soul. The beauty of these brief moments is that they are attainable, adaptable, and flexible. They demonstrate that spiritual nourishment is not dependent on quantity, but on sincerity and consistency. Even the shortest practice, if done with awareness and intention, can anchor the soul, keeping us grounded in our values and connected to our inner life. Spiritual practices, even brief ones, also cultivate a sense of purpose and meaning. When we engage in acts that connect us to the divine, to the sacred, or to our higher self, we are reminded that life has a direction and depth beyond what is immediately visible. These small, repeated moments of devotion act like compass points, gently guiding us toward our true north, helping us navigate decisions, relationships, and challenges with clarity. When the soul is anchored in meaning, the external pressures of life lose some of their intensity, and we are able to approach situations with a sense of grace and confidence that comes from knowing we are connected to something enduring. Furthermore, brief spiritual practices nurture the heart by fostering gratitude, compassion, and humility. A short pause to reflect on blessings or offer silent prayers for others cultivates empathy and softens the heart, allowing us to respond to life's difficulties with understanding rather than judgment. These practices, though small in duration, shape our character, reminding us that we are not isolated, but part of a larger web of life, guided by principles that transcend personal desires and challenges. Ultimately, the power of brief spiritual practices lies in their consistency and intentionality. They may seem small in isolation, but when practiced regularly, they create a strong foundation for the soul, providing stability, clarity, and resilience. They remind us that our inner life matters, that peace is cultivated, and that our connection to the divine or to higher values is never lost, even in the midst. Even a few minutes each day, practiced sincerely, anchor the soul, offering a steadying presence, a source of strength, and a reminder that transformation and grounding are not dependent on the magnitude of our actions, but on the devotion of our hearts. Quiet acts of kindness shape character and elevate purpose because they reflect the values we hold in our hearts and translate them into action even when no one is watching. In a world that often rewards grand gestures, public recognition, and visible achievements, the subtle, unnoticed acts of compassion can feel insignificant. Yet it is precisely in these moments, when we offer patience, a smile, a listening ear, or help without expectation, that our true character is forged. Quiet kindness is a deliberate choice to act with integrity, empathy, and love, and it has a cumulative effect on both the giver and the receiver. Over time, these acts mold the soul, cultivate humility, and align our lives with a higher purpose, creating ripples of positive impact far beyond what we can immediately see. One of the profound ways quiet acts of kindness shape character is by teaching empathy and perspective. When we take the time to consider another person's struggles and respond with care, we expand our capacity to understand and relate to experiences beyond our own. This process challenges self-centered tendencies, softens judgment, and nurtures patience. We learn to value the dignity of every individual, regardless of whether their actions or circumstances directly affect us. Each act of kindness, however small, reinforces the understanding that our lives are intertwined, that our choices impact others, and that compassion is not contingent on recognition or reward. In this way, character is not built through words or intentions alone, but through repeated actions that reflect love and care in tangible ways. Quiet kindness also strengthens integrity and self-discipline, choosing to act with compassion, even when it is inconvenient or when we receive no acknowledgement, requires a commitment to our values. It is easy to be generous when others are watching, but true character is revealed when we act according to our principles in solitude. Each intentional act of kindness becomes a reaffirmation of the kind of person we want to be. Someone who prioritizes goodness, empathy, and humility over ego, pride, or the need for external validation. These repeated choices, though small in isolation, accumulate over time, shaping a person whose actions consistently align with their moral compass, cultivating a life marked by authenticity and integrity. In addition to shaping character, quiet acts of kindness elevate purpose because they connect us to something larger than ourselves. When we act selflessly, we participate in the well-being of others and contribute to a broader sense of collective good. Every act of kindness is a statement that life is not only about personal gain or achievement, but also about contributing positively to the world. This sense of purpose nourishes the soul, providing meaning and direction even in the face of challenges or mundane routine. When we consistently choose compassion, our lives become instruments of influence, creating impact not through grandiosity, but through the accumulation of intentional, thoughtful deeds that ripple outward in ways we never fully witness. Quiet kindness also nurtures gratitude and emotional resilience. When we help others, we gain perspective on our own lives, realizing the blessings we often take for granted. It fosters a sense of connection, reminding us that we are part of a larger human community and that small contributions of care can strengthen the bonds between us. This perspective builds humility and patience, allowing us to approach life's challenges with a more balanced, grounded mindset. As we practice kindness quietly and consistently, we cultivate a heart that is both tender and strong, able to navigate difficulties while maintaining compassion and generosity toward others. Another significant aspect is the transformative effect quiet kindness has on relationships and the environment around us. Acts of kindness, even small and private, create a culture of trust, respect, and positivity. People notice the energy and intention behind genuine compassion, even if they do not comment on it explicitly. This creates an environment where empathy and cooperation are encouraged, and where others are inspired to act with similar care. Over time, the cumulative effect of these subtle, consistent actions shapes communities, workplaces, and social networks in profound ways. Kindness becomes a practice that transcends personal benefit, fostering a legacy of generosity and moral strength. Ultimately, quiet acts of kindness are powerful because they operate at the intersection of character and purpose. They mold who we are while simultaneously shaping the world we inhabit. They teach empathy, integrity, patience, while reminding us that our lives have meaning beyond ourselves. Each small, selfless gesture is a building block, silently transforming our inner life and guiding us toward a purpose that is both noble and enduring. By consistently choosing to act with quiet kindness, we not only elevate our own character, but we also elevate the collective purpose of humanity, creating ripples of goodness, compassion, and meaning that extend far beyond our immediate awareness. Transformation is built through patience, discipline, and daily renewal because lasting change is never instantaneous. It is a slow, deliberate process that unfolds over time. Many people desire transformation, whether in their character, habits, or spiritual life, but they often underestimate the steady effort required to achieve it. True change is not born out of fleeting motivation or occasional bursts of enthusiasm. It is cultivated through consistent, intentional actions practiced day after day. Patience allows us to endure the discomfort of growth, Discipline ensures that we continue even when resistance arises, and daily renewal reconnects us to purpose, vision, and resilience. Together, these elements form the foundation for profound, enduring transformation that touches every aspect of life. Patience is perhaps the first pillar of transformation because growth rarely occurs according to our timelines. We live in a culture that celebrates speed, instant results, and immediate gratification, but meaningful transformation takes. Whether it is developing emotional resilience, strengthening spiritual connection, or cultivating healthy habits, the process requires the willingness to endure periods of struggle, uncertainty, and imperfection. Patience teaches us to remain steadfast even when progress feels invisible, reminding us that every small effort contributes to a larger picture. It allows us to trust the cumulative effect of our consistent actions is greater than any single moment of effort, and it prevents discouragement from derailing our journey. Through patience, we learn to embrace the journey at sea, finding value and lessons in the process rather than solely in the outcome. Discipline is the second essential component, as it ensures that our intentions translate into tangible action. Transformation is not a matter of desire alone. It requires consistent effort, often in the face of fatigue, distraction, or resistance. Discipline is what allows us to maintain routines, follow through on commitments, and practice habits that may feel challenging or mundane. It is the quiet, persistent force that keeps us showing up day after day, even when motivation wanes. Without discipline, even the most inspired intentions remain unfulfilled, and transformation becomes a distant aspiration rather than a lived reality. Through discipline, we cultivate reliability within ourselves, strengthening our capacity to honor commitments not only to others but also to our own growth and well-being. Daily renewal is the third crucial element because transformation is not a linear process. It requires constant recalibration, reflection, and recommitment. Each day presents new challenges, distractions, and opportunities for growth, and without intentional renewal, it is easy to become disconnected from our purpose or drift back to renew old patterns. Daily renewal might take the form of reflection, prayer, meditation, journaling, or setting intentions for the day ahead. These practices act like a reset button, helping us assess our progress, learn from mistakes, and realign with our goals and values. Renewal keeps transformation alive by reminding us that change is ongoing and requires continual nurturing. It allows us to approach each day with clarity, focus, and renewed energy, reinforcing the momentum of long-term growth. The combination of patience, discipline, and daily renewal creates a rhythm that sustains transformation. Patience allows us to endure the process without giving up. Discipline ensures that we remain consistent in our efforts, and daily renewal reconnects us to our purpose, helping us maintain direction and focus. Together, these qualities transform ordinary routines into a practice of growth, turning small, repeated actions into meaningful progress. Transformation, then, is not a dramatic, one-time event, but a steady accumulation of intentional choices made over time. It is the result of countless small victories, moments of self-awareness, and acts of perseverance that gradually reshape our lives. Moreover, this process teaches resilience and self-compassion. Patience reminds us to forgive ourselves for setbacks. Discipline encourages us to persevere despite difficulty, and daily renewal allows us to start each day fresh, unburdened by past failures. Transformation is rarely linear, and setbacks are inevitable. By integrating these three pillars, we learn that growth is a journey rather than a destination, and that every step, no matter how small, contributes to lasting change. In this way, transformation becomes not only achievable but sustainable, building a foundation of strength, clarity, and purpose that endures beyond temporary circumstances. Ultimately, transformation is a lifelong process rooted in patience, discipline, and daily renewal. It is a deliberate commitment to showing up for ourselves consistently, nurturing our growth, and aligning our actions with our deepest values. It reminds us that real change is built gradually in the small, faithful efforts we make each day, and that the greatest transformations occur not through sudden breakthroughs, but through the quiet, persistent cultivation of character, resilience, and purpose. Through this process, we learn that transformation is not a moment to reach, but a life to live intentionally, moment by moment.